I think there was something spectacular that happened here that has left me in awe of both of you, because we shot this scene over the course of an afternoon, and then we came back the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
And we needed to do it again, and it was early, and we put the camera in one position, and Bryan and Aaron, they performed this like word perfect, flawlessly, like no time had passed. Just reinvented it again in one take.
And Bryan and I actually made a deal that we wouldn't read it over. We would just go on set and just
I didn't
do
know
it.
that.
Wow.
And that's what they said. Do you want to run it? And we're like, let's just roll it.
Yeah. Wow.
And
wow.
And and we were like, oh, okay, because it's 12 pages or something insane. And that's why I say I wish we'd been at the Geffen, because you guys just play.
That is so impressive.
Yeah, it really was.
A page, of course, in a script is what you're hoping for. Is it roughly equates to a page a minute. So if you have a 12-page scene, that's like 12 minutes. That's very impressive.
And and they both had these enormous monologues.
Specific order that
This part I always find really moving.
Yeah, very moving. It's so well played. This is an episode.
So tortured.
Yeah. This is an episode that I hear people, I hear this episode brought up so often to me. 99 times out of 100, it's like, I love this episode. A few people out there wasn't their favorite. But it's like, that's
where's the action? Where's everybody else?
Yeah, and that's not surprising when you think about it. It's such a different kind of episode that when you really reach for something different, it's either going to please people or it's not.
It also makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The claustrophobic nature of this.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I just love this dilemma that he's feeling now, that he missed his perfect opportunity to die.
Yeah.
It was such a profound thought process. Yeah, he thought about it.
This right here, what you just put your finger on, this is the point of the whole episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
This enormous regret.
Yeah.
But this is always going to remain one of my very favorites of no matter how many seasons we do. I love this episode.
Me too.
A dream of an actor is to just truly get lost in a scene, and you really feel like you're living in that moment. And I definitely did get lost. Right. I mean, this entire scene.
And here, another dangerous moment when when Walt, in his state, may very close to revealing his culpability in Jane's death.
Right.
He dances to the edge of accidental confession.
Yeah.
And Moira, you recall all of us in the writers' room. You and Sam wrote this episode. Obviously, all the episodes we all sort of get together as a group, all seven of us, and we we talk everything through. And then in great detail, and we talked quite a bit in the writers' room on this one about should we go ahead and actually go the full Monty or whatever, and have Walt actually admit to what his culpability or his lack of action with in regards to Jane's death,
allowing Jane to
and we talked about it for. At least, I don't know, a whole afternoon at least.
We kept coming back to it, though. I mean, we sort of talked about it over the months, too.
Yeah.
That's true.
But we ultimately felt like it would be so huge.
Yeah.
And
too huge.
Such a betrayal that it would be too huge for them to ever continue on together.
Yeah. So we danced right up to the very edge of it instead.
If I could weigh in on that, I think it makes it more dramatic that it got to the edge and didn't reveal.
Yeah, I think so too.
Family.
It's sort of a good philosophy in general to try to give as little as possible. And that sounds like it's a hard thing to put into words, but you always want to give a lot in your storytelling. But in a weird way, you want to give as little as it takes to be exciting and interesting, and that sort of goes for any episode of this show. You want to give the bare minimum so that you have somewhere else to go in a later episode, and yet the bare minimum has to include within it. It has to be dramatic. It has to be interesting. That's sort of our philosophy, is to give as little as possible, which sounds weird, but that is kind of the way it works.
The universe is random.
I love all this stuff.
It's simple chaos. It's subatomic particles
pills
and
are kicking
endless,
in.
endless
Yeah.
collision. That's what science teaches us. But what is this saying? What is it telling us when, on the very night that this man's daughter dies,
Poor Walt.
it's me who's having a drink with him? How can that be random? Oh, hey, sit down.
This is a weird question, Bryan. What's the story with your glasses? You don't use them in real life, right? What are you seeing when you look through them? Is everything magnified, or?
No, it's just glass, just clear glass on top, but there's a magnification bifocal down at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So I do need glasses to read, newspapers and things like that.
Gotcha.
So that's all I use. But Walt needs them to just see.
Gotcha.
He's
Yeah.
He's not very good.
But it looks like they got some kind of curve to them. They don't look like that window pane stuff you used to see in old movies where the actor didn't really need glasses, but they faked it.
Yeah, no, they have a machine to it.
They're kind of well done.
This moment's just so
This deep
heartbreaking.
sorrow and regret.
I love this. Yeah.
I was
Fighting
at
through the
home
drug.
watching TV.
How do you guys keep going there, take after take? How do you keep going? I mean, obviously you guys are pros. You've been doing
Mad
it for
skills.
years. Yeah.
Mad skills, yo.
Is it something you learn? Is it something you're born with? What do you think, Bryan?
How you keep going?
I mean, you
I
had
think
to.
it's both.
And then Moira
Keep
used
going back to that emotional state.
Born with talent, and then technical skill to make it fresh and repeat it every time.
For actors and for writers too, is the empowerment of affecting change, emotional change in people, is what gets us excited, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when as writers, if you have people gasping in the audience of watching your play or something, it's like, oh my God, I moved this entire. That's powerful. And
Right.
same thing with acting, is that for us, it's a performance art that you can affect change, and it just makes you feel strong. I mean, it's just terrific.
That's amazing. It's amazing you do it over and over again, repeat it over and over again.
That's that.
Fly cam.
Well, that Moira's right. That part is craft.
Technical
that you have
skill.
to really
Yeah.
develop and pace yourself and
Gotcha.
know when to shut down the engine so that you can come back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I lo-
Great Ryan shot right here.
Yeah.
All this stuff is so great.
I love that. I love the shot that opened it. I think that was done at
Fly cam.
Yeah, well, that was done with the camera on a gearhead and spun around very quickly. At probably the camera shooting at, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 frames a second, something like that.
He's not coming down.
I think that's how that one was done.
He's staying up there forever.
Yeah.
I love the attention to detail from Matt Beck and his visual effects guys, because, how do you do a fly? I mean, it's like you're spending money on the shot. You want the thing to move so that it doesn't look like you just glued a raisin up there. And if you look real closely, and if you're lucky enough to be watching this on Blu-ray on an HD TV set, you'll notice a little bit of movement here and there, but it's very subtle because, of course, in real life it's pretty subtle. What a fly looks like from
Yeah.
across a room.
I watched this episode with my entire family in Idaho, and this is the moment where
Your mother's freaking out.
The entire audience is thinking, is Walt going?
bad idea.
No, not necessarily walking on the ladder, but is Walt going
To confess?
to confess.
Right.
And everyone is screaming at the TV saying, no, don't
Oh, really?
don't do it.
Well, speaking of that, is your family saying, "What are they making you risk your life here?" Or what is that? What is that jerk Vince
None
making
of
you?
that crossed their mind at all. I don't think.
Talk about how you did this, by the way.
That was actually, it was bolted down.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it was bolted down.
And we had you
And
with on
I
a harness, too.
I had a wire on as well, right?
You had a wire leading up to the ceiling that if you
Yeah.
had fallen, a couple of guys would have caught you, and you
Yes.
would have just dangled there.
You're right.
Sort of like the way they fly Peter Pan or whatever, right? It's sort of like a flying harness kind of thing. If you had fallen, but you never fell, though. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah. And then we had to digitally erase that. That was, as I recall, Matt and his guys, and Diane Mercer, our wonderful post producer, and Andrew Ortner also works with Diane. As I remember, they were saying one of the hardest shots of all. This is the hardest series of shots was actually erasing your harness in these particular scenes. Kind of harder than some of the fly stuff. In fact, it's funny how some of the more mundane shots turn out to be like here.
like
This
that.
is where we
Yeah.
really needed the harness.
Yeah, you
yeah.
had the harness on here.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to wear it, but
And you didn't need it.
I didn't need it. I mean, I wasn't going to fall.
It looks so precarious, though. And it was. I mean, if you had fallen, you
And
would
it
have
was.
fallen, but they would have
Would've
caught you on the cable.
Look
But-
at
Oh, I love this
Walt's
moment.
face.
Yeah.
But here you weren't even
so
that high
sorry.
here for this stuff, right? This was
No.
more.
No.
Yeah. Right. I love this moment you play.
What's so sweet about this is that Jesse's trying to rescue him.
Yeah.
And Walt's
Yeah.
almost telling him, I killed the love of your life.
Yeah.
It's really just,
Yeah. You guys are so goddamn good in this episode.
yeah, you are. Yeah.
Oh, a little mismatch there. I didn't even notice that
What's
before. You're holding with both hands in
Yeah.
a close up, and then on the down angle, you only got one hand.
Ryan Johnson, what a terrible director. That's Bush League right there.
You know what? I've sat through this thing 100 times. It's the first time I ever noticed it.
I never noticed.
Because there were
If you hadn't
periods
mentioned it.
because as he's fading, the arms drop.
No, it
That's
happens.
different.
You're not
Yeah.
robots. You guys aren't robots.
Yeah.
I love this. And then coming up is one of the wonderful fake flies falling to Earth
Yeah.
at like 120 frames a second or,
That we
or
shot in
500 frames a
Like a
second.
gunslinger
Specialty
pulls
shot.
out his gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all digitally done, that fly out of focus in the foreground. Excellent effect.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. I think that was a special camera.
Yeah.
I think 500 frames a second, I believe.
It was the same
That's
camera
fantastic.
Yeah.
that we used to shoot the falling chicken parts and meth for the Pollos Hermanos.
Yes, and we also used it to
We
get a
shot
shot
it
of
the same day.
the bullet that falls past the skull-toed boot of the cousin, the
Yeah.
bullet that
Oh,
Hank
right.
uses to blow his brains out in a
funny.
parking lot. Yeah,
In 1 minute.
yeah, in the
I love
episode
that
1 minute.
He tucks them in.
I know, isn't that
And then
nice?
Oh,
goes
he's so
back to-
sweet.
The shoes, that's such a great touch.
I love
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great touch.
Goes back to cooking.
And I love these series of time-lapse kind of things.
Yeah.
Or that one there. Excellent attention to
He
visual
closes
detail.
The door.
I love this shot.
He'll be okay. Me too.
Very striking, sort of mythic. We're hoping to get Ryan back for season 4. It'll be schedule dependent because I think he wants very much to come back and do another one with us.
Love to have him back.
Yeah.
See what he does when he has more than one location.
Yeah.
202 and change. You okay getting home?
I love this part too because Jesse gets kind of tough here. You're thinking it's going to be kind of sweet here, and then it's like it gets tough again.
Well, Walt kind of. Yeah.
And Walt's looking out for Jesse here, but it's like,
Jesse's a tough guy.
yeah. Well, Jesse does have it. I love that shot through the windows as they lower. This is the same shirt. That same shirt you were wearing all through Grilled when Tuco
Yeah.
had you in the desert. Tuco
Yeah,
had you and
Vince
Walt.
wanted that
Yeah.
shirt specifically again.
I wanted it again, even though I think you probably would have thrown it away after that memory of being held hostage in the desert. But nonetheless, we took a little privilege and brought it back.
Understand? And if they ever found out,
I didn't take shit.
Do you know we get 4 shits an episode, and that's all we can have? And that was one of them. I think was it 4 or 5?
No,
4.
I think
Was
it's
it 4?
I think it's 4.
One F.
One
No, they're
for the entire season.
One
for the
F-bomb
entire-
per
yeah.
season.
Yeah,
One F-bomb.
it's,
Use it judiciously.
I know.
Yes.
Pick our moments
get to write
carefully.
it.
I'm going
here
to
in
do a little
season
spoiler
4.
alert.
That's right.
I get to say the F-bomb in season 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I get to write it.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I have it all ready to go for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's you'll have to wait and see which episode that is.
you. Yes. Not telling.
Yeah. And this close up in the light, that was a bigger light that Ryan asked to have made.
And we had a crane.
Yeah.
On the light, on the blinking.
On the blinking red LED light, and
Yeah.
and then there's a shot of the superimposition on I think 2 frames of the fly that was created after the fact. I think created in the editing room based on Ryan's request.
I remember running up to you during this scene, Brian, saying, "Did you finish episode 12 yet?" Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, "Did you?" I'm like just hovering over his back.
Where we're reading the episodes as we're shooting one, reading others.
Excellent,
Nicely done.
Excellent episode. Excellent gentlemen. Excellent acting. Excellent writing, Moira and Sam.
Yeah.
Excellent directing, Ryan Johnson. I love this one. One of my favorites.
Me too.
And here's the music, this great out cue by our wonderful composer, Mr. Porter,
So great.
with a little bit of fly sound effect in there. Or I don't know exactly how it did it. It's
Well,
great.
it was a band made up of flies who actually created the music.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.